Dank times, Danker thoughts, sweet vibes and taking it sleazy. The dankness is taking over, nonsense is dancing through his mind. Oh, the dankness is taking over. Dank times, Danker thoughts with Angelo Grosso.
Welcome to a very spooky, not really spooky. I thought by now I'd have video going on this podcast, and I was going to be in costume during this one, but life's a bitch sometimes, and nothing happens the way you planned it. So still working on getting that set up, still working on getting a new desktop and laptop. And when I say working on, I mean procrastinating like a motherfucker. Because I've needed a new desktop and a laptop for about 8 to 9 months. But I just keep putting it off. I don't know why, but I get very anxious and nervous. Almost to the point where my skin starts to crawl with the idea of getting new like digital devices such as computers or cell phones or TV or what have you. Because I first, for whatever reason, I have this boomer mindset when it comes to carrying over data from one device to another. And I know the mass majority of the important stuff I have on my desktop, I can back it up, put it on a flash drive, set up a new desktop, that's faster and better, specifically for podcasting, and I can carry all my shit over. I know it can be done. I used to work in digital customer service for Amazon for fucking 2.5 years. I know it can be done. I just have a hard time practicing what I preach in this arena. So use your imagination about what I'm wearing during this spooky Dank Times Danker Thoughts episode. I think this is 76. And yeah. I hope everyone is doing their best during this bomb cyclone that the weather people have been talking about. And I got to tell you, when I first heard the term bomb cyclone, I thought, okay, these mofos are just being dramatic. But since I've been in this bomb cyclone for what feels like years, even though it's probably only been 5 or 6 days, it really feels like I'm living in a fishbowl that's constantly being shook by a toddler. It's crazy. And I look outside and I see the fucking pandemonium mayhem that's happening in my yard with the wind and the rain. I must have 30 feet of leaves and debris just chilling out there. I still have that broken tree sitting in the bottom of my yard. I have probably gotten through maybe 25% of it by burning it. But with this weather, I'm not going to stand out there in the wind and rain for a couple hours to burn shit. It's crazy. I just need a break for one day. You hear that, you bomb cyclone bitch? Give me one day of no rain and very little wind. I don't care if there's a little bit of wind. In fact, I don't give a fuck about the cold either. But just give me a break from that sideways rain that I thought only existed during the Vietnam War because of all the movies. So I just need, like I said, a day. Give me a day, God. Just one fucking day. Well, I know he's not listening. He never does. So I hope everyone is doing okay with all this. I know that there's been some power outages. I hope everyone's staying warm. I saw that tree fell and killed those 2 people in Issaquah. That's some sad shit. Although, if I had to choose a way to go, a giant tree falling on me in the car probably would be in the top 10 because it would be a quick death. If you have that fucking thing just fall on you and crush you like Jello, you're not going to feel anything. I mean, it's sad because there's not going to be an open casket, but I don't want to have a casket anyway, You could either cremate me, but again, if you're just a puddle of meat, I don't know what they can do with that. Maybe they can get a spatula and maybe throw you in a hole. But I still want to do the cremation or the mushroom suit. And I guess if you're just a heap of red goo, I don't think anything would work. Honestly, they'd probably just empty you in a black bag and throw you somewhere. I don't know, man. What the hell can you do? So, but what's been going on with me? It's been a little bit of a while since I recorded one of these. I try to do one a week, sometimes two a week, but lately it's been pretty damn busy. And when am I recording this? What's today's date? Oh yeah, this is the 28th. So a few days before Halloween. And I'm a little bit pissy because it could be because of the weather, it could be because of the pandemic, or it just could be that I'm 35 and most of my friends are either married with children or married, but there's nothing really happening in terms of Halloween parties this weekend. It's kind of sad because I was really looking forward to it. I may still do something. I may have some friends just come over to my house and we can have a good time, but I miss the days getting in a costume and going dancing somewhere. And I've asked, I believe, 4 different groups of friends, and I got the same response from all of them. And the few people that are doing something, it doesn't really sound like it's going to be spooky. It's more or less, oh, we're just going to go out and get dinner. Oh, it's Halloween weekend. I had no idea. I don't want to hang with those people. I want to hang with people like, oh, yeah, man, we're going to have bobbing for apples and pumpkin carving, and we're going to do this and this and that, and we're going to hand out candy, and we're going to go dancing and clubbing. I'll be like, hell yeah. But that's just not an option this year. So what I think I will do on actual Halloween, which I believe is on a Sunday this year, this will be my first actual Halloween at my new house, because last year's Halloween there was 0 trick-or-treaters because of the pandemic. But now that we have the shots out, the vaccinations out, and the boosters, and restrictions are being lifted, I think I will get some level of trick-or-treaters. I really don't know what to expect. I've talked to some of my neighbors that have been here for a couple of years, but they really don't know what to expect either. So I bought a bag of candy. Let's see what happens. If I run out, I run out. Maybe I'll throw some edibles in there and let those kids have a real good Halloween. But yeah, I've been super busy though. Last weekend, I went to a haunted corn maze on Friday evening in Snohomish. I believe it was called Fright Farms? No, Stalker Farms. There was a couple farms out there in Snohomish, and we chose the one that had, I believe, 4 corn mazes. And plus of other amenities, food trucks and gift shops and a wine garden. Not really a wine garden, more like a wine shed. But I went with a couple friends, and it was a blast. We went out there about, 7-ish. And even though it was a little bit rainy, not that bad, because it basically dried up when we got there, but it was so muddy that sometimes when you're walking through those corn mazes and you step into like a 4-inch puddle of mud because you just can't see anything. But it was a blast, I brought my pen with me, so I was hitting that motherfucker. I had a few glasses of wine, had some hot chocolate. The food was atrocious there, but you're not going for food. And even though it took me about an hour to get out there and a little bit less to get back, that was my only nitpick, because I realize I'm turning into an old man in many ways. But in particular when it comes to traffic. I really don't like to drive far out by myself, and I really don't want to sit in traffic. It has to be something incredibly fun. Like, if the traffic says more than 40 minutes and I'm driving to a girl's house for some poontang, I really have to question, is this poontang really going to be worth 40 minutes in traffic? But it was fun. I do believe that we picked the wrong corn maze, however. We wanted to go to the one that had more adult stuff, like there was an escape room, and I believe they actually had a physical haunted house on the property. We chose Stalker Farms, which is ironically right next door to the other farm. And even though they didn't have all of the, more adult stuff, they still had the beer wine garden. And the 4 corn mazes, one was closed, unfortunately, so there was 3 of them. And all 3 of the corn mazes had a different spooky level. And I got to tell you, maybe because I was a little bit stoned and I'm 35, but I really didn't get scared during the corn maze. However, I did jump a few times, but it was more or less dramatic of a jump than anything. But, if I was a teenager, or if I had a a girlfriend at the time, maybe some young kids, it would have been a blast, even more than it already was. Because I really did have a fun time. I do highly recommend doing those kinds of things. Plus, it's great for the local community because there must have been, I don't know, 100 or so people working. And I know that most of them are living around the area, and there was a lot of high school kids working as well. So it benefits the whole community, especially those high school kids, teaching them what it's like to actually have a job and working with the American public, which I've always said, are there a worse bunch of bastards than the American public? I don't know. So that was my Friday. Saturday, I saw Dune. And I'm going to talk about Dune later in the podcast, but that was my Saturday, was preparing for Dune. And we were seeing it in IMAX, me and 9 other friends. We went to the Kent Station IMAX. It was the closest IMAX we have around here. Because the mass majority of us have wanted to see the new Dune movie since it was announced a couple years ago. And once we heard that they were using actual IMAX cameras, we said, you know what? We understand HBO is releasing this movie early on HBO Max or Plus, whatever their fucking streaming site is. But on a movie of this scale, let's step out of our comfort zone, because some of the people that went haven't been to a movie theater since quarantine. I've only been once. Let's step out of our comfort zone. Let's go to a movie theater, preferably one with IMAX. And in fact, there was a few of my friends that said, we refuse to watch it in any other format besides IMAX. So I was willing to meet them halfway, but thankfully we saw it in IMAX, and oh baby, did my pants get full of happy juice watching that movie. Before that, we went to the Spot out in the Tukwila Renton area. There's a little bar up by IKEA and the Asian market out there. Now I had my negative thoughts about the Spot because I've only been there a handful of times. And I never really had a good time there. But I tell you, that Saturday, I ordered food for the first time there. I've never eaten there before. They had, dare I say, the best breakfast burrito I have ever had the pleasure of having in my mouth. I couldn't believe it. My mouth is watering just thinking about that burrito. They added things in that burrito I had never had before. And I had a few double gin and tonics. I think I had 2 or 3 there. The first one was shit. I don't think it was a double, but even though they charged me a double. But then the next one absolutely was a double, if not a triple. So then we went from there to the actual Kent Station, and we stopped at, was it the Rock or the Ram? Whatever that dump is out there. We had a few more drinks. We smoked a little bit, and then we went into the movie. And oh my God, the movie started at 10 o'clock, and it was a 2.5-hour movie. So you do the math. So I got home pretty late for me. I slept in on Sunday. I really didn't do much on Sunday besides basically recuperate. Because I was dead to the world on Sunday for most of the day. I took a nap, woke up, got a second win, watched did the Seahawks play on Sunday or Monday? I think they played on Monday. But I watched a little bit of football. I'm sure I did something else on that Sunday. I'm just drawing a blank. And then, of course, Monday happened. Went back to where I worked. I had a lady friend come over. I'll go into that in detail a little bit later in the podcast. And then I watched, of course, the Seahawks play arguably the ugliest, worst game I have ever seen under the Pete Carroll era. I know I've said that quite often this year, but this one has got to be easily top 10, top 5 worst games I have ever seen under Pete Carroll. And then the rest of the week, here we go. I started physical therapy again because there was about a week where, for whatever reason, I was waking up every day and I just felt like I had a 2x4 or like a metal rod on the left side of my body between my lower back and my knee. It took me a couple hours every day to be able to kind of work that knot or that soreness, whatever you want to call it, out, but it never went away. So I called the physical therapy that I had gone to a couple months ago, set up a new appointment, and of course when I got there, it didn't hurt anymore. But we are working on some other areas where, I have the same issues I've had with them earlier, which is I feel like I'm 35 years old. I shouldn't wake up sore or with a level of tightness or soreness from not doing anything. Now, if I work out, and I wake up sore, well, that's fine. That makes sense. But if I didn't do anything and I'm doing the same stretches, the same exercise, the same activities I always do, and I don't get sore, but then all of a sudden I do, I'm not okay with that. I got to figure out what the fuck's going on. So they sent me home with a bunch of more exercises to do, and they got me on a new plan. Today was my first day of actually following through with it because when I went on last Wednesday, I did pretty good on Thursday, but then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I was so busy and dead tired that I really didn't do shit until the following Wednesday when I went back for my second appointment and poured my guts out to him saying, oh, I haven't been doing it since last week. I've been busy, but I'm really sore. By the way, I was super sore. I'll tell you why later. So yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Let's see. Anything else of note? We bought our accommodations for most of our trip to Germany. I'm in charge of the Prague lodging, and I've been looking through a couple hotels. And some of these hotels in Prague, oh my God. I get so sexually aroused by the culture that I see, because in my stupid American brain, I see European style villas or European style architecture or whatever, Eastern European, whatever you want to call it, Germanic, Gothic, whatever. And I get a hard on because I think of all the movies and all of the music and all of the books that I have consumed over my life that takes place in these areas. And I just kind of feel like a whimsical, Disney-like, I don't know, like a fairy godmother imagination land feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. It's dreamlike. It's not real. And so when I'm looking at these hotels and I see what how the buildings look, what they're by, the foliage, the pools, the food, and like I said, just what's around there in terms of museums or historical sites, it's almost like I do get sexually aroused by the thought of traveling out there. I don't know if that's normal or if I'm too cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you know what I'm saying? But I haven't made a decision yet. I posted about 5 or 6 hotels on a shared doc that we have, and we're going to go over that soon. I'm also talking to my friend in the Dominican Republic about my trip there next month. I believe we've settled on a 4-day, 3-night trip there, but we're still working out the specifics. But yeah, like Ferris Bueller said, life moves fast. If you don't stop every once in a while to take it all in, it'll pass you by. I butchered it, but you know what I'm trying to say. That's a famous quote. That's a famous quote from a famous movie. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, in a very quick whirlwind way, that's kind of what I've been up to the last week or so. So what I'm going to do now is pop open this this joint here. This is from Cake Cannabis, arguably top 3 best weed manufacturers, whatever you want to call it, that I get. I get it every time I go to the weed store. Cake Cannabis. This one is their Skittles strain. It is a indica. I don't know why I smoke indica this early in the day, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And this is something else I got to talk about. I got to cut back on marijuana, absolutely, but I also got to cut back on the amount of indica I am smoking. Sometimes I finish up my work during the day pretty early on, and if I got nothing else to do that day, and it's like 2 or 3 o'clock, I'll say, you know what, fuck it, let me start getting high. But I'll smoke an indica, and I am just dead to the world until I go to sleep, and that's not good. I feel like if I'm going to smoke an indica, it needs to be in the PM sometime, like an 8 or 9, and one indica joint really should last you 2 to 3 nights. But not this guy here. I'm like a goddamn chimney. So what I think I got to do is I need to start buying 50-50. Half indica and then half sativa or sativa hybrids. I don't know. I don't know if this is interesting to anybody, but anyway, I'm going to crack open this Skittles indica joint, and then I'm going to tell you about some ladies that I've been talking to. I think I said on a last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, I was kind of in a dark place because I was going through a dry patch when it came to the dating apps. I wasn't meeting any women outside of them or in them. It was kind of a dark couple days. And well, more than a couple days. It seemed like a couple weeks, but if I actually had a calendar in front of me, I could look at it and be like, oh, actually, it was only like 4 days. It seemed like 4 months, but you get horny and you get sad and lonely, and then everything is much worse in your head than it actually is in reality. So I think I said in the last podcast that over the last few days I had a few contact me, and we were taking it from there. So since then, I have been talking to a handful, but really there was only one that I was started to talk to outside of the app. She is a Filipina slash Spanish 36-year-old. And here's the thing that I had never dealt with. She was exactly 5 feet tall. And when I was reading 5 feet, I thought, I'm only 5'7", 5'8". It's not that big of a deal. But then when I met her, I mean, she's honestly to my chest, if that. And so I thought, oh my God, there is quite a height difference. But, it didn't bother me. That Ukrainian lady friend that I had such a fun time with, which I'm still talking to her, and we still are talking about, what are we doing here? What's the future like? But she was, I believe, like 5'4" or 5'3", and I was with another girl a couple of years ago that was about 5'2", 5'3". So I thought 5 foot ain't that big of a deal, but it kind of was. She was pretty tiny. So all of her features were tiny. Small hands, small feet, small legs, small ass. But she had a beautiful sense of humor. She had a very high level of kindness and compassion. She had drive. She knew what she wants. She is a mom, which has been something that I decided to really look internally at myself over these last few months. Because if I'm being honest, a couple years ago, maybe up to even a year ago, a woman with kids was kind of a turnoff and a red flag, and it was an immediate not interested. But through the year, I've kind of said, well, that's not fair. It's really not. You're cutting out a whole sect of women. And let's be honest and open, I'm fucking 35 years old. So the odds of women my age being also like me, never married, no kids, it's not as common as I thought. So I kind of opened myself up to the possibility of this. Now, this Filipina Spanish girl I'm talking about, we've already discussed that neither of us are really looking right now for anything long-term serious. I mean, we both are, but we both recognize with each other, we're just having fun, which is what you want sometimes. And so we kind of hit it off, and we started chit-chatting, and we moved to another app outside of the dating app because chatting on the dating app is fucking torturous. And I will say that she was so forward with what she was wanting. She said, look, I'm 36. I'm going to be open and honest. I expect you to do the same. I'm not trying to play games. I want honesty. And that kind of turned me on because that's what I want as well. I don't like mind games. I don't like tricks. I don't like mind fucks. I just want to talk to the person that I'm going to meet, and I want to figure out if this person is worth my time and my emotion. And with her, it was. We started to flirt a little bit, and we decided to, hey, let's meet. Let's go get some Filipino food out in Tukwila. And we basically spent the majority of the day together, and we hit it off. And she told me, you know what, not only do I find you attractive, but you're funny, you're confident, you know what you want. I mean, she was really building me up, and I had to tell her, well, hold on, don't put me on a pedestal just yet. I find you attractive, which she, of course, could not believe that I found her attractive. I don't know why women have such low self-esteem, the majority of them that I have met anyway. Maybe not all women, but the majority that I have met, they think they're fat, they think they're ugly. It's crazy. I think women are harsher on themselves than men are easily, but also other women are way more critical of other women than men are of other men. Some of my best male friends, I can sit down and talk to them about anything with no judgment and no backhanded compliments. Whereas I feel like if women are doing that, there is a lot of that judgment, backhanded compliments, two-faced comments, all that shit. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but I'm repeating what I have heard from single lady friends, married lady friends, or just women in general. So I'm not trying to be sexist here, but there definitely is a difference about how men and women treat each other. But we hit it off, and she said, well, I want to see your place. And that's when I knew, all right, this is dating in your mid-30s, it sounds like. If you hit it off, why fuck around? Why wait? Just take them to Pound Town. I was not expecting that. I never do. I never go into a date First or second. Third date, maybe, but I never go into those dates assuming I'm going to get any. I really don't. I think if you go into dates like that, you're going to sabotage yourself, and it's not fair to the other individual, and it's kind of not fair to yourself either. Because why do you think you're such a catch? So she came over. She loved the house. How could she not? And we had a fun time together. I had never been, like I said, sexually intimate with a woman of her height. I had to get some getting used to because, I've been with women slightly taller than me, but the vast majority of the women I've been with have been, slightly my height or slightly shorter. But this one is so much shorter. It took some getting used to, but we had a fun time. We really did. And then she took off. We kept in touch. She ended up coming over again because she had never tried marijuana in her life, probably because of her culture and her customs and all of that. But she was kind of excited to try it. So she came over in the morning. We took some edibles, and she was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is not at all what I expected. She said that she was more nervous trying the marijuana than she was meeting me or coming to my house for the first time. That's how nervous she was about the marijuana. And it just fit because the weather was shit outside. Neither of us had anything to do that day. So I said, well, let's come upstairs. Let's get naked. Let's just chill in the bed and just relax and be high. And it was so much fun. By the way, that sex, the second time around, was so much better than the first. And I'm not to say anything negative about the first time we had sex. The first time we had sex was great. Don't get me wrong. But the second time, there was already a familiarity there. And the marijuana kind of stripped away any kind of nervousness or anxiety that one of us or both of us may have had. And it was just kind of I don't want to be dramatic and say magical or anything because it wasn't magical, but it was pretty damn good. And of course, we did that for a couple hours, and then we chilled a little bit, and then, so that's been fun. The only downside to it all is that, again, it's not another serious relationship. She told me pretty bluntly that she's having the time of her life with me. She's never been with a guy like me before. Best sex she ever had. Yeah, what can I say? I'm pretty damn good. But she also knows, look, I'm starting a new job in about a month. I don't need to focus on my kids. So this really is kind of just a fun thing, which is fine. We both needed it. This is kind of a new thing for me, kind of this carefree, free sex, free love kind of mentality. I'm not all about it. I still have to have a level of connection, not just a physical attraction, but, there has to be a emotional or a mental connection as well. I have gone on dates with beautiful women, but there's not a connection there. And I thought if she wants to have sex right now, it would be kind of be a problem. I wouldn't really be into it. Whereas with this one now, I am into it because I do have a level of comfortability with her. But again, we're having a good time. We're being very open about things. So we're doing what we can with the time that was given to us. And we're just going to take it as we see it. And I have not really been in a situation like this before, so it's all kind of new to me. But for someone who didn't like doing the quote-unquote hookups or first date smashes, or I can't just stick it into someone that I just meet. The last two women that I've been intimate with, I've had a sexy time with them on the first date. But it's not like we just met. We had, a couple weeks of build up to it, and we spent a couple hours together before. So it's not like we just met up just for that. And I still don't think I'm a good candidate for that. I've had, they look attractive on the dating app. Who knows what these people really look like? But I've had attractive women reach out to me on the dating app solely to smash. And I tell them not interested. And most of them are surprised because not many guys tell them that. But it's just not for me. And I'm very open with the girls that I talk to on dates. I tell them I'm not looking for a one-night stand. I'm not a hookup kind of guy. Hey, guys, I've said it before. I have turned down sex at girls' houses, at my house, because it just didn't feel right. And only one woman has ever actually gotten mad at that, and that was a Philly monster. She could not believe that I turned down sex on the second date and the third date. And she didn't want to hear about my feelings on it. She just wanted to know why she wasn't getting cleaned out. You know what I'm saying? But once, not to get too gross here, but if I feel that kind of connection, I don't care if the girl's on their period. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what's going on. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I feel it. Let's go. Period sex sometimes is the best kind of sex. Natural lubricant. You don't have to wear protection. You can leave it in because they're on their period. What are they going to do? The odds of them getting pregnant on their period are slim to none. At least that's what I've been told to believe. Who knows if that's actually truthful, but who knows? I will trust the woman in this. It is their body, it is their blood, and I'm putting something inside them. So therefore, I feel like whatever they say goes. I'm just along for the ride, metaphorically, but we did. It's like riding sometimes. But anyway, so that's been fun. However, I'm still on the dating apps. With that, I think we can move on. I've already briefly talked about the build-up before Dune, but we're going to cover a couple things. We're going to cover Squid Game, we're going to cover Dune, and we're going to cover the first episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm that I just caught last night, and The Green Knight, a movie that I've been wanting to see almost as long as Dune. Let me just get Curb Enthusiasm out of the way. So, I'm a big fan of Curb Enthusiasm. I think it's arguably the best all-around comedy series in the last 20 years. Right up there with Arrested Development, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Office, Parks and Rec, Workaholics, and some other ones. Broad City is a good one. But anyway, Curb is probably number one. This season, the first episode is pretty damn funny. However, I have a hard time believing the main problem or their main issue, and I'm not going to give it away for spoilers, but what makes the season start to go? What's the overall theme, the overall plot of this season? I think it's pretty stupid. However, it's only the first episode. I'm willing to give it time. But if you haven't watched Curb Enthusiasm, get your thumb out of your ass and start it. What the hell's wrong with you? Now, The Green Knight was not as good as I thought it would be. However, it was a pretty damn good movie overall. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll probably give it like a 7.2, 7.3, only because for a movie that's over 2 hours long, I expected there to be a lot of slowness and slow build and all this. But the first, I would say, half hour, 40 minutes really was pretty goddamn slow. And I understand it's a retelling of a medieval story. And by the way, if you don't know what The Green Knight is, it's a fantasy, although I would say it's a psychedelic fantasy retelling of the medieval story, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It stars Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander. I think I pronounced her name right. She's hot as shit and a damn good actress in her own right. Joel Edgerton has a small part, and there's some other actors too, but it's mostly Dev Patel's movie with Alicia Vikander co-starring. His acting was great. The costumes, the cinematography, and the music, all 9s out of 10s. However, the flowness and the actual story itself kind of bogged it down a little bit, in my opinion. That's why it's in the low 7s instead of a high 7s or the low 8s. I would only recommend this movie to certain people. I don't think the mass at large would like this movie. It's definitely a niche movie for specific types of cinemaphiles, meaning you like the technical aspects of movies, you look beyond what you're actually saying, you like the history of the movie, you like the director, you like the actors, there's more to a movie than just what you see. And for those kinds of people, the Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson fans of the world, I think you would like The Green Knight. There is not enough psychedelic craziness in the movie, in my opinion. That's another nitpick I have on it. But overall, I think people who have a knack for watching the artsy-fartsy movies, Green Knight will be right up your alley. Now, before I dig into Dune, I have to catch my breath for that. I want to talk about Squid Game. I did not finish it as quickly as the vast majority of you probably did, because that show was so dark and depressing that I could not watch more than an episode and a half per day. And in fact, there were some days where I took 2 or 3 days off between episodes just because I just needed a breather. I will say, though, that it was just different enough for me to call it a unique show. The actual plot of people killing one another or having to survive obstacles that kill them for money is not a new thing. We've seen Marathon Man, we've seen Hunger Games, we've seen other movies I'm drawing a blank on. By the way, Marathon Man? Is that the... Yeah, Marathon Man. That's the Arnold Schwarzenegger one? Yeah. I mean, that's exactly Squid Game for the most part. But like I said, this movie did just enough, in my opinion, to make it pretty unique and to stand out. And obviously, they're going to make a season 2. I don't think that's a spoil for anyone, because I assume everyone has seen the series. If not, I won't go too deep into the actual games and the outcome. However, I will say that... that episode where it takes place in the fake neighborhood when they're playing marbles, that episode took years off of my life. But, you know, those are the back end years. Those are the worst years anyway. Who cares if you lose those? And again, I'm trying really hard not to give into spoilers, but some of the characters that died that episode, it hit me to my core. It hit me to my core. I still think about certain characters and I get very sad. You can hear it in my voice. I'm getting a little emotional here. I get a little teary-eyed thinking about it because, God, that was such an emotionally draining episode. I did like the payoff. I did like the twist. I only liked the twist because I did not predict it. And I pride myself, the cocky asshole cuck that I am, that I can predict most surprises in movies and TV shows. And I would say 80% of the time, I'm accurate. And I did predict a few things in Squid Game. Again, I can't tell you what they were because it'd be spoiling it. But let me just say this. The brother, I called that shit. However, I did not call the big twist with 2 of the characters. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. Although, once that twist happened, you know what inevitably happened to one of those characters. I did predict that happening as well. But I did not predict the last scene of the series when you-know-who is going to do you-know-what again. So, I did not predict that. So, any show that can fool me once, fool me twice, fool me thrice, I got to give high marks to. So, if you care about my bullshit ratings that are completely arbitrary, I would give Squid Game 8.2, 8.3 out of 10, maybe. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. But let's stop beating around the bush. Let's all talk about what I've wanted to talk about since I hit record on this podcast. Motherfucking Dune. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as I possibly can because I'm going to get emotional, I'm going to ramble, and I may have to change my underpants a few times because they're going to get full of clam juice. So, I expected a B+, A- movie going into Dune. I left Dune thinking, not only is this movie an A+, not only is it a, dare I say, a plus, but it almost gave me a religious zealotry feeling during and after that I have not felt since I was in high school. And I first watched The Fellowship of the Ring, the first of the 3 Lord of the Rings movies. And when I saw The Fellowship of the Ring, a boy became a man that day. I don't know what transformation happened to man Angelo during Dune, but he came out a different person. And to talk about the specifics, there's not enough words in the English language that I could throw at a dartboard of adjectives to describe amazing. But I will do my best to say, much like The Green Knight, the technical aspects of the movie were par to none. I have never seen a movie that had that grand of scale when it came to the visuals of the movie, the costumes, the cinematography, the placement of objects, the level of detail, and things that maybe got half a second of screen time, the architecture, it didn't look like you're watching CGI. It literally felt like David Villanueva, the director of Dune, transported us to another couple planets. It didn't seem like this was made up, obviously. Obviously, the movie did not go to a new planet that had these buildings and filmed actors. They had to build this shit. I did not notice that things were CGI. And that is what I like in movies that have to have an abundance of CGI. I'll give you an example of when I do notice it. Most Marvel movies, most DC movies, most of those kind of big budget blockbuster movies, I can tell when things are CGI. Even in my beloved Lord of the Rings movies, some scenes in Return of the King are so bad at CGI that it kind of takes me out of the movie for a brief second, but then I think, who the fuck am I? And I go right back in, baby. But with Dune, I never felt that. Not once. It truly felt like they were on a alien world on a desert now the worms obviously were CGI. I will say that the only things that actually looked like CGI were the fucking worms, but they had to be. The costumes, the set design, oh my god, the score. Hans Zimmer should win every award that they give out to composers in movies, because he has already been a highly regarded, dare I say, Mount Rushmore of movie composers. But this soundtrack, this score, puts him near the fucking top of John Williams' bunk ass. The video editing, the sound editing, again, the technical aspects of the movie should win all of the awards. And now when you actually get into the movie, you have just A+ cast. Just to go over a few. Timothy Chalamet, excellent. Rebecca Ferguson, dope as a motherfucker. Zendaya was not in it as much, but that's okay, because you could see in the second one, which they've already announced the sequel, she's going to be a major star in. She was good. Oscar Isaac, oh my god, I would take him to Pound Town 8 days a week. Jason Momoa was good, and that's hard to do. Jason Momoa is not a good actor, and he was excellent as Duncan Idaho. Stellan Skarsgård was just a villainous evil. God, who else? Josh Brolin was damn good. Javier Bardem was great. I could just keep going on and on. Dave Bautista. That was Charlotte Rampling. Okay. Oh my god. Anyway, I could keep going on, but the acting was great. The dialogue was great. They took a lot of the elements that were in the original movie that didn't belong and took them out and kept them closer to the novels, which I always respect. And I gotta give, again, the director and the studio massive big balls worth of credit, because you're making a movie about a book that many experts have said cannot be done. It's too hard of a book to bring into film and do it justice. They said the same thing about Lord of the Rings. The studio greenlit 2 movies for 1 book, which is something they should have done with the original movie back in the 80s. And the one thing I hear a lot of people say, that the reason that they did not like the movie or did not enjoy it as much as I do, is that the first hour and a half is just boring as fuck. Now, to me, I loved all that shit because it is world building. You have got to understand who is who. It's like watching the first season of Game of Thrones. There was a lot of episodes where it's mostly dialogue, and shit didn't get real until the midway point or so. Same kind of deal with this first Dune movie. You have to have patience. I understand that society these days, we don't have a lot of patience for things. We're used to getting results now, and most consumers are not comfortable with a slow burn, a slow moving movie. But once Dune gets going, god damn does it get going. It's non-stop action. But I would not bill it as an action movie. It's really not. Now, I do have to rewind a little bit and say, obviously, I give this movie 10 out of 10. I saw it with 9 other guys, one of my buddies going into it said, I really don't like these kinds of movies. I'm kind of along for the ride because I want to see my buddies. He did not enjoy the movie. We all made fun of him in a ball-busting, friendly way. But that makes sense. If you don't like sci-fi fantasy epics, which this is what it is, it's an epic. And by the way, the first original cut is almost 6 hours long. I hope that shit gets released because I will watch that with a box of Kleenexes and hand lotion right next to me because I would be ready, baby. But if you're going to combine the two movies, you're looking at well over 5-6 hours. So if those kinds of movies aren't for you, like if you don't like the Lord of the Rings movies because it's a lot of talking, a lot of walking, a lot of narrative, a lot of bullshit, then Dune's probably not for you. My father wanted to watch it. He said I couldn't get past the first half hour. It was boring as hell. So I feel like this movie is going to split people. Now, the mass majority of people that I've talked to love the movie, but I have not heard anybody say, oh, I enjoyed it. It was an okay movie. Either you didn't like it and you didn't finish it, which is understandable based on the kind of movie it is, or you thought it was a masterpiece. And I'm obviously on that side. In fact, I say I'm a fucking zealot. Now, I have to rewind a little bit and remind myself that I may have had this religious experience, like those black churches, when the whole time they're all just singing and dancing, everyone is sweating. It's like watching Prince or the King of Soul in concert. James Brown, they were just a sweaty mess. That's what it was like. But I have to remind myself that the reason I felt these emotions is that I'm with my friends. I had 3 to 4 double gin and tonic, so that's a lot of gin, and I smoked a lot. So I may have just been in a state of mind where I would have loved to fucking anything. But I saw it in IMAX, and I think that also helped hype the movie emotions that it was giving me, because if I was at home watching it, I don't think I would have had the same result. If I was watching it in a standard movie theater, I don't think I'd have the same result. I think it was because of the drugs, the alcohol, the friendship, and the IMAX. But it was an experience. I don't know how else to put it. It was more than a blockbuster movie. It was like I was watching a documentary or like a live feed of some aliens in an alien planet. Like, it just felt like that was an experience, that I was having a miraculous witnessing a miracle almost. Like, I feel like when the Jews first saw Moses split the water and they were walking by, that's kind of what I was feeling when I was watching this movie. It left me speechless, but I felt what I felt, and I shared it with my buddies, and a lot of them felt the same. And when I said, do you guys feel like it was a religious experience? They all said yes. So that's as best as I can sell it, people. If you like those kinds of movies, you're going to want to put your dick in it, okay? If you don't like those kinds of movies, you could try to watch it, but I don't think you're going to like it. I really don't. So, but with that, I think we can wrap up. Oh, geez, I'm looking at my podcast schedule here, and I didn't get to talk about the Seahawks or the vaccine mandate fallout that's happening in this country and the supply chain issues, but you don't need me to talk about that shit. If you guys follow anything, you knows what's going on. Seahawks suck. It's the ending of an era. My personal opinion is they need to start rebuilding, and we need to either tell Pete, do you really want to go through another rebuild, or do you want to just ride off into the sunset with a awful end of your career season, a la Mike Holmgren? Same thing happened to him. I would think Pete would want to give it another go someplace else because of what he accomplished and did not accomplish here in Seattle. So, in my opinion, if I was running the organization, I would tell both Pete Carroll and John Schneider, what do you want to do? John Schneider, do you want to go to Green Bay? That's always been the rumor. Pete, do you want to move on someplace else? Do you want to go back to college? Do you want to retire? Do you want to stay for another rebuild? Based on that decision, I will then move forward. If either hiring a new coach, it's going to keep up with what's happening in the NFL. I think Pete is out of touch, and his play calling is becoming predictable and conservative, and we're not making the adjustments during the game and after halftime that are needed. We have to let go of his entire coaching staff. And, I would look at maybe bringing in that Joe Brady, that offensive coordinator from LSU. I think he's with Carolina right now. See if he wants to become a coach. and I'd have to look at who else could be, who would be a possibility. I would call the Philadelphia Eagles, see if they want Russell Wilson at this year's trade deadline. They have 3 first-round picks. I feel like if we package Russell Wilson and maybe a late-round pick, or maybe a positional play, maybe a LJ Collier, because that looks like another first-round bust, I would want to get in return those 3 first-round picks from Philly and Gardner Minshew. They can keep Jalen Hurts. Well, they could give us either Hurts or Minshew. I would imagine they would give us Gardner Minshew over Hurts. And I think that trade would work. I then would go to the veterans on the team. The Dwayne Brown, the Quandre Diggs, the Bobby Wagners, and say, what do you guys want to do? The toughest trade would be me trading Bobby Wagner. I think he is a Hall of Famer, surefire Ring of Honor, and we really should retire his number. And I would love to do the Edgar Martinez experience with Bobby Wagner and have him just play his entire career with us, but that rarely happens in any sport these days, but especially football. So I'd want to do right by the veterans, and I would say, Bobby, Quandre, Dwayne, what do you want to do? And I would do whatever they would wish. I would then tell the Tyler Lockett's and the Jamal Adams of the world that we have on the team, players that we just signed to long-term extensions, don't worry, you're not going anywhere. I would tell DK Metcalf, you're not going anywhere. I would also tell Chris Carson, what do you want to do? I'd throw him in the veterans. And, so you could really build up as best you can your draft picks for this year and next year and really start to rebuild. And I think we could do it quickly, because if we keep the core of the team, meaning Metcalf, Lockett, Jamal Adams, unfortunately, and maybe Jordan Brooks, those 4, I think, are pillar pieces. Maybe Damian Lewis, the offensive guard. He could also be a foundational piece, but I don't know. I don't know who else is on the team that's going to be a foundational piece. I don't know. I don't see many on our offensive line besides Lewis. I don't see any running back that has that. I don't see any tight end that has it. I don't see any defensive pass rushers that have it. I don't see anything on the corners. I would have traded Jamal Adams immediately if we didn't literally just give him that extension, so we're stuck with him. So that's what I would do if I was in charge of the Seahawks. In terms of the mandate fallout, it is tough to see initially how many people have lost their jobs because of it, but then you start to realize, well, what are these jobs? And you look at how many nurses have left their job, how many policemen have left their job, and so forth. You can say, well, there's the bad apples more than likely that you always see when people say, well, police aren't bad, but they're just a few bad apples. I would feel that many of the bad apples are refusing the vaccine, so you're kind of wiping out the bad apples. Now, are only bad apples unvaccinated? Of course not, but you're probably getting a lot of them out. Same thing with nurses. How can you call yourself a nurse and not believe in all this shit? So you got to get rid of the bad apples. So I think that's good. The supply chain, I mean, it's partially COVID. I do believe the Biden administration excuse there. I would say the majority of it is due to the pandemic, but it's also people have realized they're worth more than what they were getting paid pre-pandemic. And so we don't have enough truck drivers. We don't have enough warehouse workers. We don't have enough people on the farm because of the fucking refusal to get vaccinated, sure. But also those people have woke up saying, holy shit, I make more on unemployment than this shit job. We want more money. That is why you're seeing a rise in strikes across the country, and I love them all. I am so pro-union, it hurts. It's frustrating because, yes, gas is up, groceries are up, lines are longer at the grocery store. I understand. We're going through a tough time, but again, we're creatures of comfort. We have it so goddamn good here that we can afford, most people can afford to pay a little bit extra during this time. Most people can, I feel. Some can't. I understand, and that's where my heart truly lies. But most people I know can afford to pay slightly more for things in the short term. And I really, truly hope that we find out that we have a lot of power as the voters in this country. If we all kind of group together, regardless if you're Republican, progressive, Democrat, QAnon, cunt, who doesn't matter, we can all probably agree the rich have too much power. We need more money flowing into the middle and low income people. Jobs need to be paid better. Unions need to be better. We need to have more time off. We need to have more paternal and maternal time off. These are just basics of common sense. We get some of those things, and then we can move forward, and I think we can get out of this low-key recession. I don't even like saying the R word because it's not really a recession. But if a recession hits, I hope not everyone just blames the current president in office, because it's not just him. It's an abundance of things. But anyway, with that, I think we can wrap up. I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And yeah, see you guys on the flip side.